So rumor has it that Persona 6 is green. Basically, every mainline Persona game is themed with a color. Persona 5 is red, Persona 4 is yellow, Persona 3 is blue, Persona 2 is orange, and 1 is purple. It is incredibly common to see this used in their market. And now we have the rumor that Persona 6 is green.
Blind obedience has a price attached. Better learn that before it bites you, kiddo.
And I definitely missed the train for this theory when it was first talked about during the 25th anniversary, because I've heard tons of people speculating this, and I had no idea why. There are also other things that could make this pretty obvious, but I digress. Persona 6 and its color being green isn't exactly the thing I was most interested in with these rumors, though.
That sounds quite logical.
We've been flying blind into the next mainline Persona game, and it's been that way for about 8 years. Persona 5 launched in 2016, and we're fast approaching the 8th year of its existence in our hands. People have been clamoring for Persona 6, from saying Atlus is definitely sitting on it, to the never-ending, constant cycle of jokes that Persona 5 will last forever. People are just getting impatient. But this little piece of information, which may or may not be true, is the one that caught my attention. And it's this one, right here. The part that says P6, P3R, P5T, and P5X began full production in 2019 as the next stage of Persona. This part is what I find the most intriguing.
You created it?
So as you may have noticed, I like to talk about game development. I'm not a developer myself, but I believe that it is better to assume that people's jobs are harder than what you think they are than to assume that they're easy. Most of the time. The team that worked on Persona 5 Royal is the team working on P6, or at least that's what I've come to understand. That's what I had heard many times, so I was curious on whether they actually began working on P6 since P5, or if they truly didn't start until Royal was done. And it seems like the latter is the case. One thing to keep in mind is that full production is the phrase being used here. This means that the game definitely could have been in planning or other forms of production earlier than that. It doesn't mean that the game started development in 2019. However, it does mean that it wasn't a focus, so there may have not been a lot of work done in between whenever it started planning to 2019, whenever they actually started full production. So it truly only has been about 4 to 5 years since Atlus has been hard at work on Persona 6. And for most people, they just want to ask, what does that mean? Honestly, not much. Given that a modern video game now is typically in development from somewhere between 4 to 6 years, based on a lot of different factors, I'd imagine that the wait for P6 is coming to a close. Relatively, of course. We still have at least another year to go, but it does give me some relief that this game isn't stuck in some kind of development hell, assuming that it does launch within the next 2 years. And if you're gonna ask why Atlus waited a whole 3 years to begin development on P6, well, there could be a ton of reasons for that. I'd argue that switching things up with the development team and staff meant that working on a lower risk project was a good way to at least understand and get to know everyone, so that they can work better as a team. This is an assumption, this isn't confirmed information, I haven't heard this anywhere. This is just a speculative thing. I don't really know how game development companies work, especially the West versus Japan, because if it isn't obvious between different labor laws and such, there seems to be a difference between Japan's development and the West's game development where they fire everyone every few years. I'm just saying, you know, maybe people work better when they're constantly with the right teams as opposed to just laying off everyone because you need to cut costs for some reason. But again, some of this may or may not be true, a lot of this is speculative, but regardless, this information is quite important to me at least.
I won't wait a moment longer. Answer me.
I would say that Persona 6 probably is only off by about 1 to 2 years. And by that I mean, it's probably more like 1 to 3, because I would be saying till the end of 2026, not necessarily in April of 2026 Persona 6 will launch. I don't think that's going to happen. At least right now. I personally don't think we'll see a full trailer for this until Metaphor actually releases. And the reason for that is just because you don't really want to market your giant new game with your other, like, biggest IP new game. They might clash a little bit. I could see us getting a trailer for this game in the summer if we assume that it is coming out in 2025. However, I think it's much more likely that we'll get a trailer around the end of this year at earliest, after Metaphor has been out for a couple months. And that lines up with another big giant event where game trailers are shown and tons of people are watching. It's a really good place to market a new game. I would not be surprised if Atlas did try to time this release with the 30th anniversary in 2026, which is why I'm so wishy-washy on when I think it's going to release. But I think if that does happen, it might be more of a happy coincidence, since it's much more difficult to line up game releases with anniversaries nowadays, because games take so long to develop and anything can happen in development. Even if you set a deadline, there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to make that. But those are my current thoughts on this new information, which may or may not be true. Please remember that even if the sources are reliable, as Midori has been, on pretty much 100% track record, rumors are still rumors. It is better to assume that the information could still be wrong before we get official reveals. Of course, some of this information may never be officially revealed, but I think it's important for us to at least look at this from a level of, this is probably true, but it still could be wrong just because it's not from Atlas directly. And let me know your thoughts on this. And let me know your thoughts on these new details about Persona 6 in the comments down below. You can leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more things Atlas, JRPG, and Persona related. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
いただいていく。